So for this first example, it just has a random graph. And it's telling us that the graph in function notation, its equation is y equals g of x. We want to sketch the image after each translation, write an equation of the image, and state the domain and range of each function. So in part A, it wants you to do a translation of 4 units to the left. That part's going to be easy. We have the red graph. I'm going to do part A in blue. I'm going to take each of these points and translate it 1, 2, 3, 4 units to the left. Oh, and if you haven't done connect the dots since like grade 2, it's so much fun. You get to draw the dots and connect them. And you should get the same shape that you had before. In part B, in green, it says a translation of 1 unit up. I take the original one, move it up 1, move it up 1, move it up 1, move it up 1, connect the dots, and there's the graph moved up 1. This textbook in particular, you have to be careful because it is very easy to miss something in a question. I just moved it 4 to the left. I moved it 1 up. I felt really good. I'm like, ooh, let's go on to the next question. For mathematics, you got to be careful because sometimes they ask you for more than one thing. And this textbook is notorious for that. So as far as a strategy going forward for you in math class, sort of a mathematical literacy, math class is not like an English class. English class, you have to read a lot. Math, you don't have to read a lot. But in math, you have to read things more than once. So my suggestion is when you think you're done a question, read it again to see if you've done everything. Here's the graph. Sketch the image. Yay, we did that. Write the equation. Oh, I guess I haven't done that yet. Right? So sometimes when you read the question, you realize there's more that you need to do. So we need to write an equation of the image graph each time. So in A, if I am moving things left and right, that's something that happens inside the function. I would write this. My function was g of x. I moved it 4 to the left. That's inside the function. And to the left would be a plus 4, opposite of what you see. And for the green one, now my function is moved up 1. That's outside the function. That would be g of x plus 1. Read my question again. I've done the sketch. Yes. Wrote the equations for each one. Here we go. Is another thing I want to point out. This language comes up a lot in the grade 12. And it's going to be something that you're going to say, what does that mean? It says in terms of the function g. Sometimes it'll say in terms of x. The in terms of means that when you write your equation, and by the way, an equation says you need an equal sign and something on both sides. When you write an equation, if it says in terms of g, the function g has to appear on the right-hand side. If it was in terms of the function f, your function f would have to show. If it just said in terms of x, then there would be no functions. There would just be an equation with x's. Could have numbers in there as well. So this in terms of is important to understand what it means. Then finally I read it and say, oh, we still have to do one more thing. It said to state the domain and range of each of these. Domain. Domain are your x values. When figuring out your domain, I like to say, do I have a smallest value? So for on the blue graph, if I'm coming from the left of my x values, can you see that your smallest value is minus 5? Does it have a biggest value? Yes, the biggest value is 2. So if I want to write the domain, I have two options. I can write it like this. Smallest value is 5. So x is between -5 and 2. Or, in interval notation, an interval means you have a starting point and an ending point. It starts at -5. It ends at 2. The square brackets tell us that -5 and 2 are included. And it includes everything in between. Same thing when trying to write your range. Now we're looking at y values, which is up and down. Does it have a smallest y value? Yes, 2. Biggest y value? 5. So I could write it like this, or I could write it like this. Same thing for the green one. The domain smallest is -1. Largest is 6. And for the range, the smallest value is 3. Largest value is 6. And then I read my question a fourth time, now that I finished something again. And finally I can say, yes, I've done domain, I've done the range, I've answered everything. So in math, you find you often have to read things more than once, right? English, chances are you read, hopefully, your book only once, not less than once. And then in some subjects, like in university, I learned in some subjects, if you have a paragraph and you just read the first sentence and you read the last sentence, you're okay. Some things you can, like the middle, you can sort of skip. Unless you think, oh, maybe there's something important in there. But usually they tell you the important thing in the first sentence, important thing in the last sentence, and then the middle is just added stuff, so you can read even less. But in math, sometimes in math, a single word can change the whole meaning of the question. So we have to be very careful when reading in math. Now, with the questions that we do, once we're done a question, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a list, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So what I would recommend is above question 1, you write 4, 5, 6, and 7. Then turn to the homework part, which starts on page 169. Circle 4, circle 5, circle 6, and circle 7. In previous years, we would have more time in class that I would say, hey, try a couple of these. We'll still do that sometimes, but mostly this will be what is expected of you to do as homework for the next day. Okay, so we've done 4, 5, 6, and 7. You've circled them.